Hello, everyone, and welcome back to your least favorite podcast featuring your least favorite RPG gamers, Getselious and Sithscott.
Hello.
And we're back at it again with another support save scumming because if you aren't save scumming, what are you doing? And we like to apologize for missing last month because things happened, such as New York Comic Con, work, traveling to the West Coast. Let me read this last one here. Fleeing from Estelle, Bright. That's a real thing that happened to some people, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the last thing is like, yeah, so we didn't have an episode last month due to complications. It was mostly like a lot of work stuff coming up from both our ends. So, but this month we got a lot of topics to go through this time around. Before we get into those topics, we're gonna talk about RPGs that we played recently, and I'm gonna kick it off this time around. And I played a lot of The Legend of Heroes: Trails in the Sky First Chapter, and a lot of Legend of Heroes in Daybreak One. I almost finished the Daybreak One, and I played a little bit, a little bit of Final Fantasy 14. That's about it. I have to get back on playing Fantasy Star 4, but I haven't played that in a while because I've been so busy with schoolwork. I had a graduate paper and other stuff going on. But on a positive note, I had a chance to play Octopath the demo, traveler demo, which when the game,
Nice.
yeah, with zero demo, which I have I have the trilogy. So when the game fully comes out, I am good to go.
You'll have all 0, 1, 2.
Yeah, zero, one, two, yeah, the trilogy, yeah. So that's what I've been playing lately. All that we could probably just get more into details of what we've been playing. But Scott, what have you been playing RPG wise, my friend?
Okay, so this month's been busy. Um so I was able to play the East versus Trails in the Sky Alternative Saga. And as a fun little like RPG Smash Brothers Power Stone mix up.
Yeah, it's I'd call it, I guess, platform brawler or party brawler. It is a really fun
Yeah.
game. I'm not playing it until I beat Sky because it's like I don't want to spoil myself in the story mode. The story mode does give spoilers in that game.
It does. It does. But it also might spoil those who haven't played the second chapter.
That's true. So I guess we're stuck here.
You might need to wait for a while.
Yeah. Well, we got some good news about that. By the way,
Yeah, we
so
do.
Falcom has announced that but we praise Kondo-san in this house. We praise our Lord and Savior Kondo-san. And this is not because we are Falcom shills. Falcom, please pay us. My bank account
We
is,
would be if they gave us money.
yeah. Again, you just wire the money to Getselious, capital G, okay, capital G. All right. Um, but they have announced that Trails in the Sky second chapter is coming out next year, I believe September.
So it will be out before September or
Before
on September.
before on
Uh,
September.
uh, yeah.
That is crazy because it's like that's less than a year. They got it wrapped up. Like, yo,
I mean, to be fair, also a lot of their assets are now done because they made it for the first chapter.
that's true. I was surprised. I
So
thought they're gonna
that's
milk
a
it out.
good thing about that.
I thought they're gonna milk it out. Be like, we got a game here, we got a game there. Don't worry about it. We got you. I thought they're gonna do that, but it's like, nope. Apparently, they got it all wrapped up.
Yeah, so I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so if you are someone who has played the Trails in the Sky trilogy already and doesn't care too much about spoilers, then yeah, Yeast vs. Trails in the Sky is a good one to try out. It does have, I mean, some spoilers you could argue for E7, but also it's Yeast. They're not nearly as story centric as Trails is. There are stories in them, but most of the stories is Adel showed up and God decided to try to kill the world.
Right, and then he remembers he was a good guy and or a bad guy, depending who you talk to.
Yeah. And then he writes a journal about it, and then he forgets whatever he just wrote.
I sw- it's just kind of funny because it's like here's my Falcon complaint. So you guys created the Legend of Heroes series, which is an interconnected world of storylines and multiple characters over spans of people's lives, and then you have the RPG that's random every chance you get with good written characters. By the way, let's not take that away, okay?
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting because yeah, Yeast has like a large like random side cast that's new like every game, and all of them are generally pretty well written. So it's just like You get what you want basically out of it.
Yeah, pretty much. This is crazy.
But all of them are usually really fun to play because they're really good at innovating on all their action RPG elements.
That is very true. That is very true. I mean, I've said it before. I said it again. Geese X is probably the peak ARPG.
Yeah. Yeah, Ys 10 is amazing. And I'm
Yeah.
excited that, well, PS5 is going to get Proud Nordics this year too, which is another thing they announced, or not this year, next year.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be sometime because we got Proud Nordics technically for the Switch, but it's a Switch 2 exclusive right now, but it's going to be on PC and PS5 next year. So if you're
Yeah.
someone who's waiting on the PC version,
Oh man, I hope they sell it as a separate DLC. If it sells a full game, I'll be a little upset because it's a lot of money.
yeah, hopefully they do. They did not for Switch 2, so it's just a separate game on Switch 2. It has no backups for saves. It has no upgrade paths. It's just you buy the game again essentially.
All right, boys. We did what we could.
They're going the Persona route.
Jeez, God, yeah. But wait. If they're going to Persona around, that means there's a mobile game that we have to get ripped off again. I'm sorry. Can't talk about that. Let's not talk about that.
Alrighty, next game up is Fantasy Maiden Wars: Dream of the Stray Dreamer. If you're someone who likes the Super Robot Wars series, like the strategy RPG with a lot of like animations for every single character, and there's a lot of characters, and they'll randomly bring in characters from other properties. It's like that, but set in the Toho world, where there are a lot of Toho characters, and they essentially cover the entire like games from like 3 to like 8 of the Toho series. So if you're someone who wants like a good actual like in-depth way to get into the Toho universe, this is one for you because it actually covers a lot of the narratives and a lot of the actual like stories of the Toho project. So it's actually pretty solid, and I would recommend it to basically anyone, especially if you like the Super Robot Wars series or if you're someone who is interested in trying to get into Toho project. Because there is a lot of Toho games, and it's very, very difficult to track down which ones are good and which ones are ones you don't need to play.
Well, there's also the Toho fan games, which some of them that's its own kind of carnival of stuff with their own fanon.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I've also been playing the goated Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D remakes.
Godlike, yeah, we'll talk about that. That is up there.
Yeah, it's awesome. Play it if you haven't. If you need to still play 3, play that too.
You know what? Why not? Play it again if you have if you've done it already. Do it for the homies.
I've also played Atelier Ryza's Deluxe Editions 1 and 2. I haven't played the Deluxe Edition for 3 yet, but I do plan to get there once I'm finished with 2. But but going from the first one to 2 makes me realize that the first one was like their experimental Atelier Ryza game, and it's a lot slower and it's rough around the edges, so to speak. Ryza 2 is when they polished it, and then Ryza 3 is when they just went all the way into the like Ryza gameplay loop, and it was when things actually felt refined and worked everything as it should. So that's basically been what I've been playing, I guess, the month or so.
That's pretty crazy. And speaking within that month, we got a lot of things that those happening. That was kind of on the crazy point. So I guess some reporting of people found out, and again, it's reporting. People have reported. Square Enix have stated that for some magical reason, which has been a Square Enix problem for a while now. I'm going to be super real about this. This came from IGN. So this is my take. Square Enix and a lot of companies have overestimated how much money games should make. I think these guys went a little crazy how much they think to do it, right? Even if they're
Yeah.
successful. So Square Enix, according to IGN, has admitted that Final Fantasy 16 and 7 Rebirth profits did not meet their expectations. And these games did really well, particularly 7 Rebirth, right?
Yeah, so ironically, 16 actually is the one that did the best of the two of those.
16 did better. Wow, crazy.
Yeah.
Whew, you learned something new every day. I actually, because I thought that's because of the quote unquote old school fan base that won Final Fantasy 7 back and it's the go-to game of all time. We'll go back to that, but I guess not.
Yeah.
I guess not. We learn something new every day, chat. We learn something new every day. And I said chat like I'm streaming. I have not been streaming for a while. You see how crazy I've been losing my mind right now. But it is serious note. people have used like this news as a way to attack Square Enix, saying that, oh, you need to go back to your old school Final Fantasy games. You need to stop appealing to like modern fans or doing things whatever. You need to go back to what Final Fantasy used to be. And people don't even know what Final Fantasy is. Some people say classic Final Fantasies 4 through 10. That's not true, but whatever. People are saying Final Fantasy 12 was the best Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy. Some people love the 13 trilogy. There are people who think Final Fantasy should play more like Final Fantasy 11 or Final Fantasy 14. And I'm like, I think a lot of you guys don't know what a Final Fantasy game is. So I guess we have to start like talking about this. Okay, Scott, you want to bust up the professor glasses here?
Alrighty, let's change glasses out.
There we
If
go.
I only had a PNG for that.
Oh,
So-
that a PNG for that. Oh my god, that's funny. Yeah, you should. The PNG glasses take, I would pay for that. But it's super funny. So basically, in a nutshell, every Final Fantasy game has always been different from each other. Yes, 1 through 6 are closest to each other based on technology changes, but even then they have stark differences from storytelling, atmosphere, and even some character designs and character archetypes. Some
yep.
people think Final Fantasy was at its peak when the ATB system was relevant. Some people don't like the ATB system. Some people like the turn-based system, and some people like the job system, such as 12 and 10. Some people
Yep.
really like the bounty system, Final Fantasy 8. By the way, I do think it's a unique system, but if you can balance it, you'd be goated. That's my only take. Hey, I'm one of those people. But I'm like,
Yeah. Just
what is a
also figure out the junction system, sure, too.
Oh god, that's yeah. Let's not. Yeah. That's something of itself. Yeah. So you're telling me. So which one is a Final Fantasy game? And I think it's a problematic how this is the problem. Final Fantasy has always been different. In every game they make it, that's the point. It's handed by a different producer or a different team to get their hands at it. There are some Final Fantasy games that are just so goated because that team was together. I think Scott knows the story, and I myself know the story. Final Fantasy VI was the last time a lot of the greats worked together, and ever since
Yep.
then, Square Enix split them apart. Yoshi P is his own side here, Nomura's over here, Kisei-san's over here, Naraguchi's over here. They're all doing their own games now, working to other teams. That's kind of where the company is at now. Now, if you want to have a fair, honest conversation about that, um, you could talk about bringing a band back together and we get Final Fantasy VI again. That's my dream, but but that's kind of the whole point of Final Fantasy in a nutshell. And that's the magic of it. You get a different game every time. If you guys want a more consistent Final Fantasy game, you should play this series called Dragon Quest. I'm not joking.
You should actually.
Because if all the complaints you have, Dragon Quest is almost roughly the same game it was in Dragon Quest 1 through upwards. The only change is technology. There are some gimmicks of Dragon Quest I enjoy, such as 3, 9, and 5, where 5 has a marriage system, which is dope. Heavenly Bride, shout out to you, homies.
Yep.
9 has a job system, 3 has a job system, and 11 is more of a story. It's a pleasure story, but play that. Now, here's something interesting, and I'm going to ask this question to you, Scott. Do you think it's important for Final Fantasy to have the same battle system all the time?
No, I don't.
No, no, it's not because it
All
gets
I care about is chocobos and Sid. No.
exactly, and even then that has issues because
Yeah.
if you make the same battle system all the time, there's one series that Scott and I play, made by this team called Falcom. We was just gushing about them, and they haven't paid us the money yet, but it's coming. It's better be coming, Kondo son. I know where you live. Jokingly, of course. I respect you. Um,
Not gonna come over there, but
I'm not gonna come over there, but But the thing is that like the Legend of Hero series is based around the court system. That's a basic understanding. But you can tell the court system from Sky and the court system of Code Steel and Daybreak are completely different from each other in multiple
Yep.
ways. And if we're gonna have that conversation, um, they expanded the system becomes different from itself. If you play Daybreak 1 and 2, or if you play Reverie, which I think Reverie is cracked broken, and according to some
Yeah.
people, Daybreak 2 goes higher than that. I'm like, holy.
It can, yeah.
So you have this over the top system, and then you play Sky. Sky is in Sky Remake is relatively balanced compared to those systems.
Yes.
But that's the basics. Your system evolves as time goes on. I can argue that the core system isn't the same for every game. Do I want the same core system every game? Not really. I like to see ideas spin upon it. So yeah, Scott's right. No, I don't want to see the same battle system all the time. I want chocobos.
Yeah. The thing too with like Falcom, the battle system also plays a part in the narrative. Like the court system evolves because technology and the industry evolves within the game. So they have better courts, they have better ornament systems, they have better connections and better technology to utilize it. So all of that actually does go into expanding not just the battle system but the narrative. And I do think that for Final Fantasy, you can also do that same thing where your battle system is also integrated into your world. And since we know Final Fantasy is like it's a different world in each game, if you integrate your battle system that way, it also makes it a lot more interesting or engaging at times too.
True. You know the best part about that is, I'm gonna shoot you away, is that some games actually done that. The materia system in Seven,
Yep.
how mana and magic is used in Final Fantasy X because of the slightly dying world. That's a cool aspect, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, they do that. These guys are smart. Like, yeah, they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why with like in 10, the summoning thing was cracked because that was the whole thing of summons are cracked. They're broken.
Pretty much. Pretty much. And I think overall, that is a good thing. And that's how you're supposed to do it. If every Final Fantasy and by the way, and Legend of Heroes does this too, and a bunch of other games do it. They do make references to certain attacks in the game. Like if I don't see politely Aqua Bleed. If I don't see Terra. If I don't see at least my jokingly favorite attack in the game, a hard break or rampage, game's dead. But jokingly, those have other team. But no, but I know like if I see Aqua Bleed, if I see Flame Arrow, I expect these games to be. If I don't see Crest, Earth Guard. If
Press.
I don't
Yeah.
see Crest. If I don't see some of these spells in the game, they're rest in the game because that's the kind of core premises. I understand that. Yes, I'm not saying a Final Fantasy game should not have a summon. So we always see them in some way. Hell, they even changed the name of summons. In 14 they're called icons for God's sakes, which is a cool
Yep.
idea. I like that. Like icons sound a lot cooler. Okay, so
You have icons, or 13 had them as like eidolons. Like they,
yep,
they had they have different names. It's just the core like characters of like Shiva, Ifrit, Bahamut were all very similar still.
yeah. And that's kind of the cool part, the point of it. So it's like it shows to me like a lack of like understanding. Like yes, they will not like we're saying, but there are core mechanics of the game, core ideas, but they can always be spread a different way, such as like in what makes, in my opinion, Legend of Heroes so really fun is that you have characters set archetypes and you can change them how based on your playstyle, such as there are tons of people that will stand by this that Estelle should be the punchy, fast character of the game. You can do that. I made Mage Estelle, who also had punch power, but her speed was booty. But it didn't matter
Yeah.
because she punch you, you die.
Some people like the slow power carry.
Let's not deny. Some people have. I've also found that like other people have done instead of going crit Joshua or avoid tank Joshua, which is also broken body. Both those builds are insane. Someone may support made Joshua. I've seen it online. That was really cool. That's a mechanic. So how you play the game is important to it. So with that mentality, I think Final Fantasy does a really good job of like making new or interesting, or just trying to experiment with their battle systems, both in a turn-based system, a ATB system, ARPG system, or even a real-time system like in 12. 12 is kind of real-timey, kind
Yeah.
of. Yeah, that's kind of
It's
yeah.
I call it the MMO combat.
Yeah, it kind of is. It kind of
But
is.
my problem, or not my problem, my thing that I would do with 12 was basically go full on ham with the Gambit system because I liked being the manager, what it felt like.
Oh yeah. You let the see the AI is smart to do though. That you're a risky man because
Yes.
I wouldn't do that. The AI, I felt the AI was on the like you're not that smart. The AI was not that smart at times, but
No.
you're a strong person for doing that. I'll give you respect on that one.
But they gave you a lot of like things you can do with the gambit system, and I love that aspect of it too.
Yeah, that was really cool. That was indeed cool, and I feel like from a standpoint, right? Like that's the whole point about what makes a Final Fantasy game. What makes a Final Fantasy game is that you're getting a different experience every time, even if you don't enjoy it. Which, by the way, Final Fantasy 4 10 is like the classic. Back in the day, and people can't swear by this, everyone hated Final Fantasy 10. Hated that game. We just came from 9, which is could be considered peak by some people, and then 10 came around. This depressed person who had god awful voice acting, laughing. We went from Zidane to this.
Yeah.
People hated 10. I'm not one. And by the
It's
yeah,
funny too because if you remember, 9 and 10 came out I think in the same year,
yep.
so it was like very like almost immediately after 9-10 came out. So it was just like some people love 9 and they wanted that like polygonal aspect, and then 10 came out and it was like hyper realistic, so much cinematics, like everything was just like movie orchestrated, like visuals, and some people really loved it in the sense of just the visuals alone sold Final Fantasy X on a lot of PS2 owners.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Which some people may say that, see, that's modern, that they dumbed it down for modern gaming. Hey man, pretty graphics are pretty graphics. Okay, you have no idea how many
Yeah.
people bought Dead or Alive because of Booba. Okay, all right. Let's have a fair conversation here. Some people bought that game for the Booba. I got a game recognized
Absolutely.
game. Okay.
It was just always funny with like Dead or Alive because it was one of the ones that I was always like shying away from because of that.
Yeah.
But
Well,
then you actually play it and realize that Dead or Alive is actually pretty fun. It just
yeah. That's
also
a
has the jiggle mechanics.
Yeah. It's like yeah. There's a game behind this. There is a game behind this. Yes, there is. Let's not talk
Yeah.
about that game, but there is a game behind this. Yes.
You can't always say that when it comes to games that try to sell you on its physics, so to speak.
Yeah, physics or enhance artwork.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you see like from a perspective of like how silly that is, or like how silly it's like, yeah. So it's like the bad arguments of like saying like whatever. It's like, no, that's what happened. But now we live in the year of our Lord 2025. Jokingly, in this year, a lot of people have changed their opinion about Final Fantasy 10. They changed their opinion. They don't have much hate about it. They're like, it's a good game. It's solid, and people have even done reconstructions of it. They've done ways to look at the game differently, going like, yeah, Final Fantasy X was interesting of how they did storyline, did the Journeyman's Quest, how Auron wasn't really, that guy. There are a lot of interesting takes of this game, and I'm like, yeah, I can see where you're coming from. I see where you're coming
And
from.
those of us who did play 10 all the way also got our psyches destroyed with that ending.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did, and that's why they made 10 too. Let's not lie about this. That was why they made 10 too. Okay, that was a decision.
What would it
And
give you hope for the end of 10 just to have 10-2 come out, and then it's just like, yeah, never mind.
yeah, never mind.
I
Yeah,
like 10, dude. Don't get me wrong. I just thought it was funny of how they tried to keep making you think that this like the possibility of 10's end was something different, and then at the end it was basically no, 10 ended the way it did.
yeah. That
You're
was
gonna have to live with that now twice.
twice, baby. Let's go. Yeah, we got like I'm surprised they yelled "got him" when they did that. Like got him. Like that would have been super mean, but I would have respected the hustle at least. At least they said it. They
Yeah.
said got him. But yeah, that's no, that's just the truth. It's like again, like I do feel this way as time goes on. I feel like there's going to be people who not even unironically, but identify with a lot of the elements of doomerism or some of the darker themes of the Final Fantasy 13 trilogy. I'm not going to deny that. I think there's probably somebody like,
Yeah.
yo, this is peak. So what? And by the way, if that happens, that means that Final Fantasy 4 through 10 and 13 is now part of the mainstream canon. Bro, what are you
Yeah.
talking about? Stop. So, what makes a good Final Fantasy game? A Final Fantasy game. That is the answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that I'm looking forward to Final Fantasy games being different, making games that they were. They still make bank off it. They're just super, super aggressive what they think should sell as a video game. That's it. I think they're
Yeah.
very aggressive of what they think a game should, like, whoa, my brother in Christ. I don't think selling, like, I hate to say it, like selling 60, I would say 100 million units in 24 hours is going to save the company. I think that's a little too wild.
They put very high expectations on the Final Fantasy games, and I do think that it is probably going to hurt them the more that they try to think that it's going to do more and more than it will. Because even if like you look at like the analyzing of the statistics of say like 7 Rebirth, a lot of the numbers do actually make sense for why it
Mm-hmm.
sold the amount it did. And 16 I still think did actually really well. At least in terms of sales. It's just people are gonna constantly be like, well, did it hit like Nintendo levels? Like nobody's hitting Nintendo levels anymore.
No
Except for
one,
Nintendo.
and even then, Nintendo struggles with that because they release so little
Yeah.
games a year. They like
Yeah.
Nintendo does hinge a lot of their quarterly or even I would say annual successes on selling one like that particular game a year, like a handful of games, which is
Mm-hmm.
you could say it's a bit dangerous and spicy. I'm not. Let's call a spade a spade. That is a bit spicy to hinge an entire company's sale based on like one thing. That is a play. I'm not saying it's a bad play, but
Okay,
it's
Mario
a.
Kart 8 is still like in the top 20 sold every year. So
I mean, how many times can we go around the circle, my friend, and still do it? That was the game of games, and we're not going back to that. Oh my god. But it's just crazy though. So it's like I think Square should do that. Personally, in my opinion, I think that Square should, in my opinion, explore some of the other spin-off Final Fantasy games. Stranger in Paradise, story-wise, was meme city, but super fun to play. Was a Type Zero, Final Fantasy Zero Type Zero was fun. Was it Type Zero? The one that they
yeah,
were
Type Zero. Yep.
yeah, Type Zero.
And you
That
had
was the
all those like school class kids who were named like Ace, Zero, Try, and all that.
yeah, which was they did not copy from Cold Steel at all. This was their original idea.
Totes.
They did not do that. Let's not say that out loud. Oh, I did. Okay, they did totally. By the way,
It was definitely a trend with like Cold Steel and like the Valkyria Chronicles game.
yeah, exactly. They know what they were doing. All right, so they know what they were up to. But it's like so I'm looking forward to make more games in that vein. Try to make more spin-off games and try a bunch of different ideas. And I want to see what they're up to because there's a lot of smart people at Square Enix to make great games, and a lot of them work on a lot of cool projects that we like to play. I mean, Dragon Quest is one of them. And speaking of Dragon Quest, we've been talking about it a lot. I'm going to skip to a little point here. So, and this is going to be the best news of the podcast. Yuji Horii receives the Order of the Rising Sun. If you guys somehow live on a rock and don't know, Yuri Hoji is the creator of the Dragon Quest series. He's been doing it for so long, longer than anybody's ever
Yeah.
known. Okay, and he is
Yep.
the first creator video game guy to ever win this award. Um, God, there's so much to go under him. Scott, you could take it away from him. There's so much to go into how good this guy is.
So Yuji Horii is also one of the main people who worked on like Chrono Trigger. So
Yeah,
if you're one of those people who, like me, think Chrono Trigger is the best game ever made in years and probably will never leave that, even if you can argue that other ones could do it better,
no,
I
no,
still
no,
think Chrono Trigger is the best.
no. Chrono Trigger is the best because just like Final Fantasy VI, because Chrono Trigger is the same to Final Fantasy 16. Someone in there, they had to make that game 3 times. Okay, it is so good that to make. So that's not even like a joking argument. It's like no, Chrono Trigger is chef's kiss, chef's kiss. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, he's worked on basically every Dragon Quest you can think of.
Yeah,
If
everyone,
Dragon
yeah,
Quest has
everyone.
had a spin-off or if it's had like a series, he's worked on it at least in some regard. A lot of the time he's generally the director though, so he's on it for a big haul. He spends a lot of time doing Dragon Quest related games in case you're not unsure of what that means.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. So he's up there, and Dragon Quest is a huge cultural phenomenon in Japan. It has, depending to who you talk to on the state side, where from the West, it depends who you talk to. They'll know more about it. Like some people, if they're old enough, it's like, yeah, I used to play Dragon. I used to play Dragon Warrior. And they look at you like a crazy. What the hell is Dragon Warrior? I'm like, oh god, I'm being called out. I'm being attacked. This is what an attack looks like. But no, there are tons of games of that nature that fits that. And
It is one thing to fun note that Yuji Hoри's very first game was a tennis game that he made.
yep, yeah, that is like strange times, man, strange times.
Yeah.
Because we're looking at him like that was your first game you made. That was the first game I made. That was all me, baby, all by myself. And what makes him interesting is that this series is super popular in Japan to a point that it's a cultural icon. From the slime enemies
Yep.
to some of the monster design, monster books. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt that a lot of the character designs and art design was also assisted with the goat to Akira Toriyama. Rest in power, my brother. Your
Yeah.
contributions to the world is unlimited. And what makes it also godlike is like the entire game as a package. Dragon Quest is just a quintessential RPG. Does it so well. It's a game that never escapes its formula and straight to the point. And again, if you're unhappy with how Final Fantasy is different every game, we recommend playing Dragon Quest. You're gonna
Yeah.
get a great
You would.
experience every time you touch it because it doesn't really shake the boat a lot.
And you're living in a wonderful time for getting onto the Dragon Quest love just because we're actually getting Dragon Quest games. That's not always something we could say.
No, you cannot. You have to be a connoisseur to find it, okay? Like
Yeah.
you had to be a connoisseur to know where to get that from. So, yeah. So the
So we
interest
have, the remakes of 1, 2, and 3 in case, you want to start from the beginning.
yeah,
Or
and
you
there's
can
a
go straight to Dragon Quest 11, and guess what? It won't take away or detract anything by going to 11. It's a full-on game that just has the mechanics of a Dragon Quest game.
yep. And if you're really spicy, you want to find out, you can start using this you might want to sail some ocean ways and start playing some of the classic ones people recommend, such as 8 or I'm sorry, which is 5 or 9. Because that's
Yeah,
if you like Dragon Quest 3, if you liked Dragon Quest 3, I guarantee you're going to love 9 like nobody's business.
yeah.
You will love 9.
It's like three's job system, but on steroids.
Oh god, the amount of customization you get, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, so it's like play that. And because his game became such a cultural icon in Japan and people associate Dragon Quest with Japan, he won the Rising Sun Award is essentially think of it as like a medal of honor, the highest anyone can win. You have contributed so much to the arts and the culture. Here is your thing from it. And that's crazy. Because there are manga about it, there's like there's so many things about it. Hell, I'll give a slight spoiler to Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD remake. 2 actually fixes a lot of canonicality from the manga. The Daikama manga that's in print, they put it in the story to make sure the Eldritch Saga is 100% canon. Peak. Peak.
Yeah, there's a lot of love in these remakes, and it's fantastic.
Like, this is what peak looks like. You may not understand what it is, but that's what peak looks like, my friend.
Yeah.
So, there's that in a nutshell. There's that in a nutshell. That's like, I'm not even getting into that. There's that in a nutshell. So, he deserves it. I'm looking forward to every project he does in the future. I know he'll probably do Dragon Quest until he hits Dragon Quest 100. Then he'll be like goaded. He'll live that long and hit that much. But that's just crazy. And one of the things that we want to talk more into about making video games is like, one of the things that's important about video games is this strange kind of argument's been happening around bad takes in home line where people have this weird understanding between translation and localizations and not understanding the difference. Is it difficult? What's this? What that? Because some people would say that modern game translations are terrible. They've ruined the experience of video games. An example of this is having Estelle say sus in Trails of Sky first chapter.
I love that.
Yeah. Or having characters saying skibbity riz.
Oh, jeez.
I don't know why, but it hurts people. So Scott is more of an expert on this. I am not a smart person. He actually directed me to several YouTube videos to understand what these people are talking about. So Scott, take it away and educate us more on this topic.
Alrighty. So this whole point came out because there was a podcast, I think it's called Trash Taste or something like that, where they were talking with one of the translators and asking him about like localization and why what makes it so difficult kind of a thing. And essentially, yes. it is hard to localize one to, it is basically never going to be 100% one-to-one with localization, because there are so many different idioms, there's so many jokes, there's so many like cultural references that are in Japan that are definitely not the same here. And their puns, oddly enough, work differently because their language is different. So if there is a very punny individual in a game, then that pun has to be translated in a way that sounds like a pun here, and you can't just take it one to one, which is why it's just like translation is something that is that is actually really easy. It's just localization is very difficult, and that's something that a lot of like that people are now hoping like AI will take over with translation, because you can have any bot translate something one to one. It just doesn't really help you understand context or why something like this could be funny. Like there are jokes that won't hit because you can't actually hear them in Japanese, because again there are words and phrases that are funny in Japanese like when you hear it, but aren't funny if they get translated one to one into English. So they have to turn that into an actual joke to make it feel a little more like this person is trying to be funny or sarcastic or some kind of in depth in that regard. And it doesn't really work with a one to one translation. And that's why localization is as hard as it is. If you're someone who likes the poetry in some of them, like if you're someone who follows like Chihaya Furu, which is all about the poetry. It's all about like mechanics and novels and books and trying to put that into a setting. It's going to be very difficult because guess what? The literature in Japan and what's popular literature in Japan isn't always the same thing as what's popular literature here. So that is not going to be the same. Poems also feel different here than they do in Japan because, again, language is just different between Japanese and English. So it's one of those things that's just very difficult to try to have your audience understand without having to have, if you're someone who was like in the 90s, did like the fan subs on like YouTube or tried to actually do Crunchyroll before it became like the big hit it is, there would be fan subs that basically took off the entire screen because they'd have to explain jokes to you in the sub.
Yeah, one of
And
the things. Oh no, no, this is the crazy. And one of the things that's interesting though is it, as you pointed about changing languages. So in Japan, they an insult to a cop is known as a dog. I had and obviously that's kind of general, but for people who aren't aware of that insult, most Western countries call as an insult to a cop a pig. It's not one to one. It is you have to maintain the same function of the insult or what you're saying over what you're trying to deform. And that's an example, as you pointed about jokes and idioms don't transfer one to one to English. And a lot of people were trying to say like this is like some kind of I had showed this to Scott, like woke mind virus or some stupid stuff. And I was just really confused because I don't really have a problem with translations in English or languages because as I explained to Scott, whatever, English is not truly my first language. I have another language I speak, which is Creole. I'm a Frenchie, but jokingly, it's like when things are told to me in English, I have a slight to my head, but it makes sense because I don't understand it that well because I understand it from a perspective. But it's like, you mean this is a problem? Like, yeah, it is. I'm like, what? But it sounds good to me, and that's kind of like the weird part about it.
yeah, I mean, it's similar. Like say, like Creole has different jokes and different idioms and
Yeah,
different like a culture in terms of its language, and that doesn't really translate 100% to English.
no, it does not.
Now, I will want to give some regard that, yeah, it is tough to also not only have the idioms and stuff, we also want to have things to have context. Context matters differently in each language too. And that's a whole other ball game to realize, because the context of like a cultural phenomenon is different in Japan than it is in like English. Some people don't give a rat's behind on like prime minister versus president differences, but there is a big difference between those two too. So it's just like, just because someone's a president here, it doesn't give them 100% full power over things, whereas like if someone is like a prime minister and could make anything just happen on a whim kind of a deal. And that's a whole other ball game. Is just like how the government and society works differently too. Like, even like when you look at people who are super confused on, say, like you see an anime and you have some people who take off their shoes before they get onto the door. So they have like a little like guardrail where you put your like sandals or your shoes before you actually step up onto the step to actually go into a person's house. We don't have that here.
No, we don't
A
know.
lot of times you just put your shoes on the like next to the front door, or even more often you just will not take your shoes off because generally nobody really thinks about it. They just keep their shoes on until they have to leave to go to where they need to go home, and then that's where they take their shoes off. It's a whole like there's a lot of things that people don't think about, and so they are just always going to be something that you need to understand is that localization is hard. There is a lot of differences in societies of other cultures than the culture that you are in. That's true of anywhere.
Right, and they don't translate one to one. And the interesting part about the translation is that they have different contexts because a joke in, I would say, Creole or Japanese or even another language could be considered offensive or
Yep.
egregious in another culture. Um,
Yes.
some cultures have particularly ways we say things. They have like gender naming things. Some cultures do not. A thing I will teach you guys here. Here's basic Creole for you guys. In some Creole, you could say gran. Gran is for grandparent. That is an ungendered term. That could be referred to grandma or grandpa. The thing about that is that if that was translated one to one and the character is looking at their grandpa, a translation would say, "Hi, grandpa," not "Hi, gran," or "Bonjour, gran." They don't say that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the way to look at it. And I think a lot of the people who are pushing this kind of like weird translation or like these conspiracy s theories or trying to say different histories, like if we were like, you can't use literal translations to fix it because even if you did it literal one to one, it wouldn't make sense. It really wouldn't
Yeah.
make sense because
It
yes, you
wouldn't.
can read it, doesn't mean you'll get it. And that's kind of the way to get around that. If you guys
Yeah.
want more context about local translations, I would recommend a good YouTube video. I forgot the person's name. I think it's let me see the good person's name. I think it's is it Liz Zelda? I know the video's like called BoJack Horseman in Japanese. If you could, Scott,
Yeah, it's Sarah Moon
Sarah
is
Moon.
the one
Sorry, yeah.
who did that one.
Yeah,
You're
check
good.
out Sarah Moon, Japanese BoJack Horseman, and they go through translating BoJack Horseman in English and Japanese and explaining the two major ways of translation, how it works, and how different it sounds, literal, figurative, and what it will sound like when you read it, and how subtitles or a text works in different ways because of how information is spread. If you're just reading full essays, you're not looking at the show or the game.
No,
So
you're
that's kind
not.
of a big deal. Yeah, so
I
this
do
is
want to have one caveat though, that there can be bad localizations. They do
oh, they
exist.
do exist 100%.
Um,
That's yeah, that
there,
there.
this isn't going to be like all localizations are perfect, everything is great. This just, in my opinion, a good localized product or anything that's localized that it is in a way that helps you understand or have the right context or intent of a spirit of something that's going on will always triumph over a literal one-to-one translation of one, just because it won't necessarily make you confused or even not make sense. I always like to remind myself of like if you were someone who played any of the Japanese games in like the 90s on like ROMs or something, and you tried to get like one of the machine translated ROMs, you'd have a lot of broken English or a lot of broken like understanding of how things worked, or even some of the things were just done incorrectly. And that's just one of the things of just like machine translation is actually kind of terrible.
No, exactly.
It gives
And
you the brunt of what is said, but it doesn't give you the meaning or the context or anything behind that, what that says or what that means. And in Japan, a lot of that is also kind of gleaned from the context of the situation too.
no, 100%. And I feel like it's super weird that like people advocate this and like we have seen this hasn't worked. I'm gonna look, Kondo-san, don't come after me. Please don't hurt me. I still love Falcom the company, but I had to use fan translations to play the continuations of the Legend of Heroes series, the Sky trilogy, and they had like five. But this is back in the day, so I found so many version
Yeah.
translations of it, and some of them did
Yeah.
use machine translations, and my god, they were just terrible,
Yeah.
terrible. Would not recommend to no one. That bad. They were that bad. That bad. I kid you not. These are
I
like
know of people who literally just hate Azure and Zero because of them being having to like read the translations, and the translations were just not done well
yeah,
because
exact
they're mostly machine translated.
exactly. It's just that it's just really, 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 really bad in that regard. It's just like I can't believe these people, and it's pretty messed up. So I can't even get into that. So that's the thing right there. So that's just a bad take one right there. I guess not really a bad take. It's more like people are trying to not understanding between localization and translation, the difference between difficulty, and advocating for a system, or at least or not advocate or push for a system that they think will work, even though we have evidence of work, or somehow just kind of push a conspiracy theory, which is we don't need that. I hate to say it. The Legend of Heroes localization team, both from NIS and the XC team, I would say NIS and the Gunho team, and Falcom in general, all you people who work towards these games, that did a really good job translating the game.
Yeah.
Um, I at best I may have found a couple lines of sound out of place or weird, but that's like once every like 50,000 lines I read. Like I'll probably mention like right now a line that I felt was out of place in Legend of Heroes, and this is a line I felt was out of place, and this happens during the Grand Soul Tournament arc, which I've streamed, which I'm streaming it, haha. But it's a line that I felt was out of place, where Zin is talking to, about how kind of like corrupt the country is. He's from Calavar. He's left talk about corruption. Okay, Calavar is kind of corrupt. Okay, it's not super corrupt. All right, let's not. And he says, that's a pretty arbitrary decision for a country that claims to have rule of law. And I'm like, that sounds a pretty weird thing to say to me, but maybe to someone who's like Scott, that probably sounds correct to say, right?
Yeah, you would probably say without a rule of law, or you could just say something that's like cold strewn with laws. There's different ways you could handle that,
Yeah,
but
but
I
this,
think the message is still kind of across.
yeah, it's like, yeah, he's saying the country's kind of corrupt or there's issues with it, but there's probably a better way of saying it. But again, this is a personal dislike that affects me personally. Other people's,
Mhm.
like Scott, whoever, may find this line perfectly normal. But again, this is coming from me, who is not a super English person, and this is fine. This is fine. I still get the gist. I'm not lost in the sauce, so that's okay. Speaking of lost in the sauce, so game of the year talks are happening again in the RPG space, and there's a lot of bad takes that are overhyping Claire Expedition 33, and there are things these people are saying that makes me cringe. It makes me like feel really bad that I'm an RPG gamer. So we're gonna go through a couple of them. And I'm by a couple, I mean like 99.9% of them, the ones that got blown up on my feed. And the some people did obviously reply to Clackback, but we're going to the original post of these people. And I think one quote that says it the most, no exaggeration. Extra 3 is kind of a masterpiece that's being impossible to ignore for future discussions about games for all gamers. It's basically mandatory education and core curriculum.
Oh.
My brother in Christ, Claire Obscure Extra 3 is a combination of all mechanics that these people like from RPGs. They were huge fans of Chrono Trigger. They were huge fans of Final Fantasy 4 through 6. They were huge fans of world design of Final Fantasy 9. They clearly took mechanics from Xenogears and other action type systems. They used mechanics from Mario and Luigi, the Mario and Luigi RPG series, such as Inside Bowser's Story and the Beans one and the Time one. We can play Baby Mario and Baby Luigi. They have all different names. It's crazy. I'm like my brother in Christ. And by the way, there is arguments that this can't be Game of the Year because that it's kind of just a mass shamble of a game. So is that a bad argument? depending who you talk to. It's a good argument, depending on who you talk to. But it's like, oh my god, these people are glazing this game like it's like it cured cancer, or saying things about this game that are or in some instances, as Scott has pointed to my direction, he found that people were using this game as a beating stick to go back to the topic
Yeah.
we're talking about to talk shit about Final Fantasy and other RPGs or how JRPGs
Yeah.
should be like this. My brother in
Yeah.
Christ, they copied our game.
I hate when a game like this takes over just with the say. Basically, it's turning into its own xenophobia.
Yeah.
Something that's been common in the gaming space since basically forever.
Yeah, I think it's like one of the first
Where
genres.
yeah, since Japanese games have existed, it's always been like our Western games are better. And it's just been something that hit very, very popular during like the PS3 era when we had a lot more focus on like open world titles selling really well, and we had a lot more big production budget cinematic movie type games taking over the world. And basically it's been like, well, that's because JRPGs don't do this kind of stuff well, or the Japanese have weird ways of orchestrating or having weird humor, or we don't like the way that they do this, or we don't like the anime style aesthetics of things. And it's just like all of these things you can have as preference or taste, but I don't think it makes a game better than the other.
No. The worst part about it is that like it kind of shows like a sense of like it says xenophobia or how they think their preference is whatever. Because that means that if I just and I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm not gonna say I'm gonna do I pull a PAL world, okay? I just copy Final Fantasy X and I just change all characters to be Western. I remove some of the weird Japanese talk about God or how they think about death or talk about or elements of Buddhism and Shintoism in the story. I remove all of that. Put modern Christianity themes in there. I sprinkle in some mechanics from other games that are out right now, and I sell it to you and call it True Fantasy 1. And you glaze me, I will shoot. I will be like, I'm done. All right, we're cooked. But you see how bad it is. They will fall because it fits into, like, my brother in Christ. You have no social imagination to try other games out. You have no social imagination to play video games. You don't look at a game and try what it is. Again, try Legend of Heroes. Trail and Sky First Chapter is out. It's a good game. Try that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, try games out. Give them a chance. And it says a lot about them in that regard. Like, how could you they arrive to these conclusions? It's just crazy. And it's really bad because it's like, and if you want to break it down, like I said, this game is a combination of several mechanics put together. It does it some of it well, some of it not. But I do agree, yeah, it's a good story as told. I definitely agree there's a lot of interesting elements of it. But if you've played enough RPGs, you kind of not seen it already, you can appreciate what it does well as a fan type game of owes the genre. But calling it like the GOAT or saying that it revived the genre and saying there was no other RPG before it, and then people like, oh yeah, there were no RPGs for this game. You know that like, like other games sold well as this, and then you look up, it's like Dragon Quest 11, the definitive edition has 8.5 million. Persona 5 has
Yeah.
3.2 million. Life of a Dragon Infinite Wealth played at 1.6 million. Metaphor hit 2 million. And these are all critically
Yep.
acclaimed scores. It's kind of hitting that horrible, horrible, horrible meme of people believing that there were this Final Fantasy 7, there was Persona 5, because Persona 4 never existed, by the way. So Persona 5, and
No.
then Claire 33. There was no RPGs gaps in between these games. Nothing made an impact. Chrono Trigger didn't exist. Final Fantasy 6 didn't exist. Trails of the Sky First Chapter didn't exist. Trails of the Sky 1 didn't exist. Suikoden 1, 2, and 3 didn't exist. Oh god. Breath of Fire was a fan made. Tactics Ogre didn't come out. Final Fantasy Tactics, like you see how they're like what bothers me, and I say pisses me off the most about these people is that they're flattening the curve of the RPG experience and what a good RPG is, or even niche or interesting RPGs, from indie RPGs to JRPGs to ARPGs to the whole genre. They flatten the curve. They're flattening it to like it was these games and the rest of them were just like niches that don't matter. They never did anything for the genre. Even though your game borrowed heavily from everyone behind them, to a point I could call out every mechanic I see as I saw it from.
Yeah, I think that's the sad thing too, is because you can definitely tell that like Sandval Interactive, the developers of this game, had a lot of love for a lot of the games that was in these genres, because of them basically being inspired from so many different games. And so it's just like they're basically having people use their game to smash the other games that they had inspirations from, which is just wonky as crap.
Yeah, which is so bad. It's like people like, look, there's nothing wrong with like, glazing a game you like. Hell, we're glazing Trails of the Sky for the Legend of Hero series, Trails of the Sky for chapter, and I will always glaze Tactic Ogre being the best political fantasy ever written. I will always say like it is literally the best political fantasy ever written. On my modern like that, I will fight you for that, and then hopefully don't get arrested. But yeah, it's just really bad, and it's like is the game good? Yes, but the things that talk about the game that is good, there are things the game does that are not interesting. There are things the game does well, but I feel like this is more of a love letter, a homage to it, because I feel like if
Yeah.
you want to talk about a very good independent RPG that is captivating and strong, we could talk about Deltarune and
Mhm.
Undertale, made by one dude. That game I think is more impactful in my opinion than Claire 33, simply because of the one man band thing, as well as what Toby made out of this game by just basing a lot of inference from his own ideas and basing a lot from their love of the Mother series.
Yep.
I also can put like this way the madness lie of using a lot of old school RPG aesthetics. I could talk about Beloved Rapture being influential, Sea of Stars. There's Kingdom of Dump that's coming out soon. There's a lot of great RPGs we could talk about that for Game of the Year potential. But I feel like yes, a lot of people played Claire 33. Yes, this was a lot of people's first RPGs. Yes, the hype is real, everything with it. But play more RPGs and come back to it. You could judge it better. Like, for example, Scott, you could tell him. I hate Cold Steel. I hate Cold Steel. I think it's the worst Legend of Hero series. Come at me. I think Reen's a bum. His entire power is just trauma is screaming in trauma. I think it's just terrible that half the women fall in love with him over a head pat. I think that's disgusting. I think that it's just weird that he didn't believe that Estelle was the strongest bracer in the world. Whatever, whatever. But but I don't like Cold Steel. I didn't like the series. It wasn't my jam. I didn't play it until Scott told me about the Crossbell arc. Crossbell arc mentioned, and
Mhm.
I replayed Cold Steel. Look into it, and I know why I don't like it. The game has not good pacing. I don't
It doesn't.
personally. The pacing isn't good. I think the combat's a bit janky, and the villains are just I summon big military monster and then leave. They don't feel like enemy. They don't feel like villains compared to the other series. Now, I have been told, and people have put it in my mentions that Cold Steel was the series that sold them money. I need
Yep.
somebody who is a fan to explain to me why is Cold Steel appeal to them? Why it did so well? It did appeal to me. Yet again, I'm a Sky person, but seriously, I don't know why. But I can see elements of its appeal. He's a very straightforward protagonist character. He has a bit of a harem appeal to it. All jokes aside, even as has like the pacing's horrible for the game, there is a lot of detail in learning the side quest does a good job, and I have to give credit to it. A lot of the characters are really, 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 really well written. It's just not Reen's not one of them. Reen is not one of them. He's not one of them. So I can see it, but it doesn't appeal to me. But I can go back and do that. Like I said, you guys love 33. Play a couple of peak RPGs. Play a bunch of RPGs and come back like, yeah, there's interesting ideas about this. Just whatever. Because you would probably come to the conclusion that this game is a great game, a great love letter to RPGs. These people really care. But to be Game of the Year, you have to have more than just being, let's be honest, a fan game. You have to have a little more than that. And I feel like for me personally, Claire doesn't hit Game of the Year potential because it's kind of a love letter. A love letter isn't enough for me personally. For other people, it could be, but that's the thing. And I think the narrative impact is okay, but that's about it. But I don't like the current discussions about this game from people using it to bash other games, saying things about the game how it like revived the genre or re-innovated. There was no other games in between it. I'm like, did you play RPGs? Do any of you play RPGs? Like, this genre's been here. If not, I think Scott and I have mentioned this many times that we're in the golden age of RPGs right now.
Yeah, we are.
There is an RPG for everyone, and I mean everyone. Get
Any
on it.
demographic, there's an RPG for you.
Yeah, you're in a waifu man, we got you. You're in a dungeon RPGs, we got you. You're into action RPGs, we got you. You're into MMO RPGs, we got several for you. Some are really good. You're into gacha RPGs, we're in there for you. Please don't protect your wallet if you play gacha RPGs.
Protect your wallet.
Protect
Yeah.
your yeah. So how are you going to tell me that like this was like in the year of our Lord 2025, RPGs are doing so well, and you're telling me this is the one that puts it over the top. This is the one that should be mandatory for every true RPG fan. I'm like, no. I put Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VI and Tactics Ogre and Final Fantasy Tactics over you for minimum experience. I put Trails of Sky remake in that list too now because it's that good. It's that good.
It is. It's great.
It's good. I would put I would legitimately also put as time went on, I might put Chrono Crusade up there, Chrono Cross. I'm put up there. The time has changed, maybe we were too harsh on you. Like maybe we were too harsh on them.
I think, yeah, I do think. I know even I was too harsh on Chrono Cross when it first came out, but that's just because I wanted it to be Chrono Trigger too. But it wasn't
We
that.
everyone wanted Chrono Trigger 2 Electric Boogaloo, man.
But when you do when you do play it and you actually try to understand it from where Chrono Cross is trying to come from, it does a really good job. It's just a lot of, especially people like me, didn't give it the time of day because it wasn't Chrono Trigger 2.
Yeah. That is a legitimate fair assessment, yeah. And that's kind of the thing. That's kind of the thing we're at now. So if you like Clay Obscure, X-Trade 3, it's great. If you think it's the best game, I implore you to play other RPGs and come back to it. Always expand your taste of what you like and why you like it. Don't be the people who are using to bash other games because that's just a bad thing. Because you only hurt the space. You're showing your booty. You're showing how dumb you are. You're pooping on everybody. Because for Claire 33 to run, you needed a bunch of other games to exist. Also, if you don't like Japanese RPGs, are aesthetically soon, play some Baldur's Gate 3. Play Scald, The Dark Legacy. Play Rogue Trader. Play a bunch of Western RPGs that are out, okay? Play those. They're good. Play those games. I mean it. If somehow your take is, well, these guys are JRPG guys. I'm an RPG guy per se, but you know what? Play some Obsidian RPGs. Play Divinity 1 and 2. Play Baldur's Gate 3. Play a bunch of Western RPGs and still come back to this. If that's the case, because there's still great RPGs. Again, we're in this golden age, buddy. We got everything
Yeah,
for you.
we do. We have a bit of everything for everyone.
Yeah. So it just feels like it really does feel like that, like in a bad sense, like, and like personally, like I want especially I want Sandfall to do well. I want them to make more games. I want them to explore the genre. I definitely give them tons and tons of respect, and I mean it's probably tons and tons of respect for bringing people into the genre. It is just a really thing to do. Trust me. A tons of people have been playing Dispatch and are loving narrative-based games. I hope they play Telltale games and play point-click adventure games. Those are narrative-based games. Play some visual novels. I'm
Yep.
glad they brought them into the genre, but I'm hoping that these people play other games afterwards. Otherwise, it's just gonna hurt the space across the board because people aren't trying out new things and new things in the space that have been around for a while. Again, I gave up on the Legend of Heroes series after Cold Steel, and if it wasn't for Scott telling me how different the Crossbell arc was, I would have probably not played Daybreak 1. And I stand by this. Aaron Way should die. Um, yeah, everyone's going to kill him. Everyone's going to kill him. Everyone is going to kill him.
He needs to stop telling people who are 20 years old or older that they're old.
Don't insult a man card. Don't call people old. Don't hit on don't hit on single mothers.
Yeah.
Don't hit on single mothers. And stop calling people nicknames such as Small Fry because she has a gun and might shoot you. But overall, though, that's kind of the whole kit and caboodle. I think that like in overall though, Bad takes about overhyping Claire 33. These are really bad takes. If you like it, you like it. It's great. But play some other RPGs and then come back to it. Try the rest of the genre because you're gonna have a good time. I guarantee it. Don't use this game as a beating stick to bash the other games of the genre. Don't do that. That hurts everybody. That literally does hurt everybody. Do other
It
things.
does.
Yeah. And with that out the way, we thank all of you guys for that has watched and or listened to the 10th episode of Support Save Scumming. Scott and I will be back hopefully next month with more RPG goodness. And if you're not save scumming, start now.
Save now.